Hello Internet, welcome to another edition of Eric's Corner, Storytime Edition. I'm going to tell you a story about when I got out of the Navy in the beginning of 2020, right before the stock market crashed. Great time to find a job, of course. If you are a big fan of my page, smash that subscribe button and tune in for more of my random rambling on issues. So I haven't done my COVID-19 episode yet. It's not ready. As I mentioned before, it takes a while to put these videos together and try to have some kind of linear thought process. And if you watch my last video, it just simply is not there. I think I butchered it. I might have to do it again. So why COVID-19 seemed like a fraud to me, because everything that happened really did not make any sense. The answer to a mask doesn't work was never take the mask off. It was cut a hole in it to play your woodwind or brass, musical instrument at a sporting event, or just die. That's fine. You're selfish if you don't just die. But when I out of the Navy, I came back here, came home, I went fishing and made a little money and so on and so forth. So when I was doing my military move back to my home of record up here, I packed up all my stuff into a big 53-foot race car trailer that I bought, got to Washington, put it on a barge, and then I got a trailer and put the wife's car on the trailer and then towed it the rest of the way. So I left my buddy's place, who I was in the Navy with. He went into the Army and was stationed there. So he drove her car from Central California up to help me out. Crashed at his place, and the next day, I procured the trailer and all this stuff, and I wish I'd have crashed there another night, but I was ready to get on the road. So around 7 o'clock in the evening, I hit the road with wife's car on the trailer, got to the border of Canada, and like 9 o'clock at night, I talked to the Mountie and so on and so forth, let her know what I had going on, and everything was pretty cool. They're usually pretty standoffish because they're border patrol and that's what they're supposed to do, explain to her what was going on. Well, we went through the whole dog and pony show, took 2 hours. At the time I was active reserve, I had active reserve military ID, all that good stuff. Went in, talked to them, and she's like, well, we can't send you through because you have to have hotels at these 3 checkpoints. One of these, they gave you a list of these hotels you could stay at in these 3 checkpoints. And you needed to show them verification. You could just show them on your phone. And they said, make sure that you actually check in, because they are going to check and so on and so forth. And you will face criminal charges if you don't do all these things, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, can't I just stop at a gas station and crash in my truck? Now, this is November. I mentioned I got out in the beginning of 2020. I went fishing. Well, it was late November, mid-November, so it's very cold in Canada. Well, that's fine. I just leave my truck idling all night to keep it warm, all that good stuff. Got a sleeping bag, and okay, cool. And she said, well, no, that's a public health hazard. I said, well, why? She said, well, you have no place to use the bathroom. I was like, well, I'd pull over at a gas station when I got to stop in to roost for the night. And she said, well, no, you can't do that because you can't go into a gas station. You have to use the facilities at your hotel. I said, well, these hotels are 12 hours apart, roughly. They have about 3 days to get through. Where am I supposed to use the bathroom in between stops? I said, well, if you have to use the bathroom at a gas station, then you can go in, because it was credit card only unless you had to use the bathroom. And I had to have X amount of days worth of food with me because I couldn't go into the gas stations to get food. And she's like, well, where were you planning on eating? I was like, well, to go drive-throughs. And she's like, well, you have a trailer with you. I'm like, well, I can pick up the phone and call and have them deliver to the parking lot, can't I? So this whole thing was just super absurd. So she turns me around. I go crash in a parking lot on the American side of the border. Okay, cool. So the next morning I get up, and I'm thinking maybe they talked to each other and said, hey, this guy's going to come through with a white dually with a white car on a trailer. We already checked him out. Well, so I pull in, and she's like, oh, here, you fill out this paperwork. And I didn't have a pen, and you're not supposed to go inside places because of COVID stuff. So she left, came back like 5 minutes later. I was like, oh, I couldn't find a pen. She's like, well, you didn't think to walk inside? I was like, and I'm at like a toll booth, and there's like 5 lanes here. So you don't normally get out of your vehicle and walk across lanes of traffic. Because if I'd have done that, she'd have yelled at me because it wasn't safe, because they're responsible for my safety. I was like, well, I mean, COVID-19, I didn't think I was supposed to get out of my truck, so on and so forth. Well, I started explaining to this next gal what's going on. And I was like, well, blah, 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 got out of the Navy, so on and so forth. I'm getting moved back home. She leans out the window and looks behind me, sees a late model car on a trailer, the 2014 GMC Acadia on a flatbed, and which says that I'm moving. I mean, I'm not towing a broke down vehicle all the way up there for a good mechanic shop. And she's like, well, where's all your stuff? I was like, well, I shipped it. And she was like, well, where's your shipping manifest? I was like, I mean, I can give you a receipt for it. Shipping man, I don't have one. She's like, well, how do I know where your guns are? Because, you know, she knows I have guns. And I said, well, I mean, I shipped them. I mean, you can call Miss McAllister, her and her goons. I almost said goons. I didn't say that, thankfully. Like her and her guys searched my truck last night because they turned me around, so on and so forth, and I informed her of that. I mean, you're welcome to search it again. I mean, again, I'm active reserve Navy. If I got caught smuggling guns over the Canadian border, Canada could not do anything compared to what the Navy would. And I handed her my military ID also. And so we go back and forth for a minute, like, well, I mean, there's no, and then she's going to educate me how moving works. Well, there's no way a company is going to pack up all your stuff and not have a list of the boxes. I said, a company didn't pack up my stuff. I loaded my stuff into my trailer and I put it on a barge in Washington because it was a 53-foot trailer. It weighed 25,000 pounds, 26,000 pounds. And my dad was like, nope, ship it, not dragging that thing through Canada in the winter. Okay, cool, fine. Okay, well, now she comes to the realization. So I pull through, I pull in, I don't go inside this time. I don't know if she made some calls or whatever the case. So she comes out and, okay, here's your paperwork. You know, I showed her my verification for my hotels and all that stuff. And then she kind of got kind of cool about it. Make sure to stop at the Canadian customs border and turn this paperwork in, so on and so forth. So my point is here, again, why I think this whole thing was such a fraud. When I was going to do business as usual, just crash in my truck, save the money on hotels, was way more COVID compliant than their COVID regulations. And she even asked me, I missed a part of the story. She's like, well, and she acts confused as hell. Like, well, why are you just now moving? Like in November, at the end of 2020, and the Canadian border was closed for like 5 or 6 months. Like they closed it in May or something. And I'm like, I'm just now moving because you're just now letting me through. I mean, it's going to cost me $30,000 to ship all this crap home versus just driving it through. Like, do you not have the news? Like, you have all these regulations in place. Why do you acting so confused? So, I mean, anyway, that's just going through customs and border security, and it makes no sense. But, well, you have to use credit card machines to pay for fuel outside unless they don't have a working machine or unless you need to use the bathroom. But you can't go in for food. I mean, so I stayed in a hotel, exposing myself and other people to the most deadly virus that's ever existed, and I can still order pizza from there, exposing myself and other people. And so I stayed in all the hotels. I, played the game and all that good stuff. Well, thankfully, my last checkpoint, my hub blew out in my truck, so I had no four-wheel drive. Again, not real critical, but hey, better stop. I happened to find a diesel shop, called the constable and said, hey, here's what's going on. I'm filing a police report. So if I'm stuck here for 3 days, I have a certifiable reason for being stuck here. I'm broke down. What do you want me to do? I mean, not completely, but I needed a repair. So they got me in the next day, chilled there. It was right before Thanksgiving. Got things taken care of. The shop, really great. I feel they did a really good job. Got back on the road, and I think I was at the checkpoint that next morning. So, or I'm sorry, later that evening. So that's my story about going through Canada in 2020. Again, what I was going to do business as usual made more sense than the government regulations they put in place. That's why I think this whole thing is such a mind-blowingly stupid, stupid thing going on here. But I'm going to do my COVID episode here soon. Again, it's not ready, but I know I'm not Mr. Ballin. I'm not as good at telling stories as he is. Fantastic storyteller. Check out his page. But I hope to maybe get to that point at some time. But again, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you're still watching. Smash the subscribe button, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for staying tuned.